Hey guys, Effie here. I'm back with the last video for our 12 Days of DIY Christmas video series. So today we're going to make a scene. So I'm just going to provide a nice long coloring tutorial on how to color all of these elements that you can create with our fireplace scene stamp and the coordinating accessory stamps. This is what the tags are going to look like after you've colored and cut everything out and then assembled them. I'm not going to show you how I cut and assembled all the elements. I just show you how to color each element, and really that's like 90% of the battle. So let's get started. What you're going to need is either a tag punch or a die, or you can create them by hand. And then for my stamps, I'm using our fireplace holiday accessory stamp and then our snow day stamp because I used the tree in that set. For our backgrounds, I used our scene background stamps like our fireplace and our grand stairway stamps. So first I'm just going to start punching some tags from white cardstock using my EK Success tag punch. After you've created the punch, you're just going to insert that the top portion into that slit and then punch it again to create the hole. Next, I'm going to start stamping all of the elements that I need to create my scene. First, I started with these adorable little stockings, and then I stamped the poinsettia cluster, the couch, my end table, two dogs, two cats, and then the bow. Next, I partially inked up the right side of my fireplace scenes, and then I placed one of the tags over that inked up portion to stamp the tag. And then I partially inked up the left side of my fireplace and stamped another tag. I stamped both sides of the fireplace for a little bit more variety in my tags. Next, I partially inked up our grand stairway stamp and then stamped one of our remaining tags. Next, I created a negative mask, so I stamped the same image on a post-it note and then cut out the inner portion of that doorway because I want to stamp a Christmas tree in that area. The Christmas tree is from our City Girl Snow Day set, and this is just going to help me complete that grand stairway scene. Lastly, I just added a fireplace image inside my fireplace, and the fireplace is from our holiday accessories fireplace stamp set. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start coloring in all of those small elements, starting with the stockings. I'm using my RV29 crimson marker to partially color the stockings, leaving a little portion of the bottom part of the stockings blank so that I could color that in with my chrome orange Copic marker, and this is going to give the illusion of highlights from the fireplace that's going to be blazing behind the stocking. I added additional shading with the R37, and now I'm just going to add some gray shading to the white portion of my stockings. I used two gray markers, that C0 Cool Gray number 0 marker is just going to blend all the grays together. Next, I'm going to color in my poinsettia clusters with my R35 coral marker. This is the only color that I add to the petals. And then I use my meadow green marker for the leaves. For the poinsettia clusters, the coloring was very, very simple. I didn't add any additional shades. Next, I'm going to color in the couch. I use my N2 Copic marker to color in most of the face of the couch. I left the left portion of the couch blank because I'm going to color that in with my Y38 Honey Copic marker. And again, this is going to add the illusion of a fire blazing behind that sofa. I want to make sure that I blend that honey marker coloring with the gray. It's not easy to blend the two colors together, but if you use a nice light gray marker like the C0 marker, you can blend the two colors into each other. Next, I'm going to use a T4 toner gray Copic marker to add some additional shading because this is going to give my couch a little bit more depth. We're playing around a little bit with the concept of light source at this point because we have that fire blazing from behind the couch. Back of the couch where the blanket is draped over, that's the face of the couch. That's going to be the darkest because it is facing away from the light source, which is the fireplace. And then the left side of the couch is the closest to the light source. So you're going to make sure that your object is lighter as we get closer to that side, and then it's going to get darker as we move away from the light source. Next, we're going to color in the blanket with 3 shades of red Copic markers. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the shading near the lines of the blankets. Since this is one of the smaller objects in my coloring, I'm not going to worry too much about the shading. So once I add a couple of darker tones, I'm going to move on and add some BV29 slate to the feet of my sofa. Next, I colored in this bow or ribbon with 3 shades of red. You don't have to add the 3 shades. I just decided to use a bit of a darker tone with the R56 for a little bit more interest, but this is one of the smaller elements, so you can totally skip that second or third color. You can just color in with the 1 marker. Next, I'm going to add some spots onto my cat with a mid-tone brown marker, and then I blended that original color out with my YR00 marker. And then I added a little bit of green for the collar. Next, I added a sliver of the honey Copic coloring to the top portion of my little puppy, and then I colored in the rest of the pup with my E34 toast marker. Once I blended that honey and the toast coloring, I added some shading with my E23 hazelnut marker. Next, I colored in the top portion of my end table with my E34 toast marker. Then for the legs of the table, I used a gold glitter Copic pen. Once I finish coloring in all of the elements that are on this page, I'm going to move on to coloring my backgrounds on the tags. I start off with this fireplace scene. I'm going to color in the stones on the wall. I start off with my N2 Copic marker, and I'm just going to add shading as I follow the curves of the stones on that background panel. I'm not being too precise here. I'm just literally following the curves of the lines and just adding the N2 marker. I want this process to go fairly quickly. Next, I take my C0 Copic marker and I'm just going to blend out the edges of that N2 coloring just so that the harsh lines are not there. Once I add the C0 coloring, everything is going to be blended in for the most part. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is a background scene. You're not going to notice all those little imperfections. I just colored in that background panel wall and then quickly moved on to the fireplace. I used a nice fluorescent yellow marker to color in the fire that's inside the fireplace. Then I added some honey to the top 2 lines of the flames. After the honey, I blended that darker yellow coloring with the original fluorescent yellow. Then I went ahead and added some chrome orange to the top 2 lines of my flames because I wanted a bit more deeper color to my flames. As I put down a darker color, I make sure to blend that darker color out with the preceding lighter color. So I blended that honey and the chrome orange out with that fluorescent yellow, and that way I get a nice beautiful blend for my flames. Next, I colored in the inside of the fireplace with my N2 marker. Next, I blended that N2 out with my C0 so that we have a nice gradation as we get closer to the outer portion of the fireplace. Then I added some T5 to the outer edges of the fireplace because you want that area that's the furthest away from the fire to be the darkest for the illusion of depth. Next, I stamped the bricks inside the fireplace, and this stamp is from the original Fireplace Accessories 4x6 stamp. I went ahead and stamped the other 2 tags where we had originally stamped the fireplace background scenes. Now I'm just going to color in the floorboards of my fireplace scene. using 2 shades of Copic markers. I went in with my E34 marker as the base, and then I added shading with the E99 Copic marker. Then I went back and blended that E99 out with the E34. Next, I just took my T7 Copic marker and colored in the base of that fireplace. This, I wasn't really sure what to color it, so I just added the T7 as a nice dark gray. And then I just moved on to color in some additional shading of the bricks. I used my N2 Copic marker and I just followed the lines of the bricks kind of haphazardly. I'm not being too detail oriented here. I just want to add a little bit of color and then blend it out and then move on. I added some C0 to the walls of my fireplace scene, and then some additional gray shading to the areas around the fire. I don't want to leave the areas around my fireplace totally white. I always want to add a little bit of shading. If you have some nice light gray markers or even blue markers or yellow markers, you can add interest or color that way. You don't have to use the gray. Next, I added some color to the windowsill, and this fireplace scene is complete. Now I'm going to show you how I colored in the stairway scene. I added some E34 to the entire stairway, and then I added some E99 Copic coloring to the base of each step for some shading. And remember, each time I add a darker color over a lighter color, I go back to blend that darker color out with that original lighter marker. So that's what I'm doing here. I blended out that E99 with my E34. And then I added a little bit of E39 for some additional shading. Then I took a black pigment pen and just added some additional detailing for my banister. Next, I took my N2 Copic marker and colored in the base of my flooring. Now I'm going to start coloring in my Christmas tree with my G03 Meadow Green marker. This is the base color of my tree. After I've colored in that base of the tree, I'm going to use my RV29 Crimson marker to just color in all the bows and ornaments. Next, I took a G0 Emerald Green Copic marker and I added shading. I just followed the lines within the trees. After the G03, I added some G19 for some additional detailing here, which I blended out with my Meadow Green marker after. Next, I used my BV34 Bluebell marker as the base of my chair, and then I added shading with my B99 Agate marker. After I color in a little bit of the shaded areas with the B99, I blended that darker blue out with that BV34. And I kind of go back and forth until I'm satisfied with the color of my chair. I used a YR00 marker to color in the star of my tree, and then I went back and added some E34 to the arms and legs of my chair. Next, I added some gray shading behind that arch for some additional interest, and this scene is complete. All I have left to do is cut out those smaller elements that we colored earlier to create my scene. Here's a card that I made a few years ago, and you can just see how you can use all these different elements to create a scene card, or if you don't have that much time, you can make these adorable scene tags. So this completes our 12 days of DIY Christmas video series. I hope you enjoyed today's Make a Scene project and video. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it weekly, and be sure to check out days 1 through 11 if you've missed it on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.